Hello and welcome to our new life series with Rav Dr. Michael Leitman. Hello, Dr. Leitman. Hello. Hello, Nitza Mazuz. Hello. And we're happy you joined us today. We're talking about the new business world, workplaces and organizations, and we're trying to learn from Rav Leitman that's presenting the integral ideal for the business world, how to take our life and values to a better place, how we can build for ourselves a new life. Join us. It'll be fascinating, I promise. In the previous discussion, I'm telling us and telling our viewers, we imagined a situation where we're at a convention of HR executives, people that are in charge of instruction and development inside organizations, and you are invited and representing the integral approach for the new world. And there were questions that we would like you to answer from this place. Nitza and I will be interviewers at the convention, at the conference, and you will be the representative of working in the new world, and we'll be happy to explain to the HR executives this approach and why it's worth it for them in today's developing world. Organizations in today's world. Let's just remember that you talked about the advantages of the organization, and now we want to focus on the advantages of the benefits for the employee in the organization. First of all, a person in our world is a poor guy. He's desperate. He doesn't know how to get along in the world. He feels very isolated. On the one hand, he wants to be on his own. On the other hand, he really needs warmth and support. He doesn't know how to get by in the big world. He's glued to his workplace, watching TV, watching advertisements, tries to learn from there how to behave, and is holding himself together with that in a world that's gotten so complex. He doesn't know how to build a family. He doesn't know how to build relations with others. All his relations are through SMS. His whole world is through a TV screen, a computer screen. He's hiding behind his niche there. And everyone needs their own car, their own apartment. Everything has to be stuck to me. I have my fridge, I have my microwave, I have everything. I have my own washing machine. I have to be organized so that I can live like in a bunker, like a single cell. On the one hand, it's like a prison, and on the other hand, it's a safe place. And because there's no choice, people agree to it. People are stressed from the general society. He's always under all kinds of pressures. Either at his workplace where he goes. It's 5 kilometers. He goes 5 kilometers in 1 hour. There's tons of cars around him. They're all like him, and they're all reflecting one on the other, this approach. And from day to day, it's getting worse and worse in the world, all the traffic. At home, he's alone, and even if he has a family, he doesn't feel any connection with the family. There's the obligations, overdraft, debts. He's also very threatened by the development of the world. Because if it was normal and he could get along with his family and start to work, start his family, be with his family, finish his life and go to the cemetery, fine. But now, the big world has come into his cell and is beginning to to awaken him with difficult questions, that the world is over, that from today to tomorrow you can be fired, that tomorrow can be the end of the world. The world itself is like starting to shake. It's not like it's in some solid, secure state. I have my corner, and in my corner I can somehow color my life with something small, even with drugs or all kinds of things. But now, the foundations of the world are beginning to be felt like an earthquake, a never-ending earthquake, from all kinds of directions. And therefore, a person doesn't know how to relate to life. He's under a lot of stress. He can't give his whole heart and soul to work. He has a lot of other frustrations and pressures and desperation, things bothering him. It's really like a disease. We see his production going down to almost zero. He comes and he does what they ask him to do. He plays around. He's just sort of acting. We see to the extent that he's also afraid of losing his workplace, he's not capable of doing anything more. And if we even replace him, it'll be the same thing. As managers, we see it. And therefore, we're very concerned. And we ourselves, the managers, also see that our connection with all the world and other companies, it's not clear what's going to happen from today to tomorrow. We have no... We don't have the correct feeling about the future. And therefore, we do understand. The managers say that what you recommend is to raise the man to the level of changes happening in the world today, in the country, in human society, in family, and everywhere. Because the integral world that is being born out of our world and is presenting itself as new connections, new approach, new paradigms, and completely different connections and relations between nations and people and between organizations. All this is very actual. This is actually what we're doing. We're beginning to make the situation healthy from the individual level. Everyone has to go through it. Not just managers or the people in production or the distributors, everyone, even the highest levels. The factory has to be suited to the new format of the world, the new integral world. This is how we have to see your business, your operation. In accordance with that, we verify the relations in families, child education. Everything has to get a truly integral format so that the employee that comes from a family, a happy, normal family, comes to his nice, pleasant workplace where everyone together, they know where they're advancing toward. So a change inside the man, first of all, the man who is physically in a company or present because he's connected to the people who are physically there at the workplace. That's what has to happen. Why do we emphasize these things? And maybe it wouldn't be maybe it's not good that we open it so widely to get a decision if we're suitable to do this reorganization in an organization, because precisely because of this integral approach, we are sure that we can change the entire organization for the better in accordance with the world. So after this change, we will advance forward, and each time with the word that will advance, we'll also advance with it, and we will be the ones to get the correct participation with everything that happens in the world. We won't be idiots. We won't get into some unclear situation, and suddenly we'll have surprises, these unpleasant surprises from all kinds of places, from our partners, associates. So these changes have to happen throughout the operation, throughout the business. They have to continue. Our organization that is getting into work is first getting into study and implementing all these things inside each person to see how they implement it afterwards in the relation between them inside the business. This might result in changes in the production and external relationships of your operation, that's clear. But we will also need to continue our work. Our partnership is an ongoing partnership because each time we have to adjust ourselves to the world that's advancing towards globalization, tighter, more intimate, higher type of globalization.
I
don't want to hide. I don't want to hide the scope of the work that needs to be done here. I want to focus on a point you made. The question was, what are the benefits? When we look at the different approaches, what are the benefits for the employee from the integral approach? And you painted a picture that I really identified with about the pressures a person feels as a worker and as a person developing in the world today. You explained his difficulties. He's like in this inner isolation in a bunker, and this it reflects on all parts of his life. So the analysis of his situation in life you did really perfectly, and I really identified. But the other side of the coin, I understood that the integral approach will fix all these things that are wrong, not just that. Maybe I didn't stress it. Maybe this is the place to add that it gives each person a place to develop. The fact that a person is missing something, that not just that he's living in a bunker and coming to work and doing what is demanded of him and doesn't want anything, he just wants to get through the day, etc., etc. Here you come to a place where you're blooming, a place of development, because the integral approach gives you a feeling that the more that you develop the environment more. The more the environment develops, it pulls you to develop more. And then in this mutual manner, you feel each time, if you remember how you used to get up in the morning when you were a child, how you jump out of bed, sunshine, run outside. In that manner, you need to feel when you have a family, or when you have a workplace, and all those things. Under pressure, you shouldn't feel them. You need to feel that you are in an environment that helps you get through all your situations in a light and pleasant manner, and even to enjoy them. The society has to provide you with this feeling. If you come to work in this manner, like you used to jump out of bed in the morning, You're a kid with nothing. You're running outside to play in the yard. Where are my friends? And you play. That's it. That's it. This approach has to be until a person, until the worker, the employee, the manager, doesn't matter who, until he comes to work like that, that it's a place, his time off. It's like his playing area for developing. Then we didn't achieve what we want to achieve. We didn't achieve the goal. Because he's coming to a place of connection with others, a place of connection with others, the correct place in the connection with others. This is actually the place of development for a person. What did you have when you were little? You had a place of connection with your friends. It's a play yard. You had the correct connection with them, and you enjoyed yourself. And the game itself isn't so easy, maybe. You were climbing and working hard, but you would see the challenge in it. You would see pleasure. You would see what a beautiful goal. What a great participation. This against this, that one for that one. Why is it called a game? And why does it give us pleasure instead of being called hard work and slave work? It's like we see in the Torah, Paro. And for Israel, is a bland and dangerous life. Everything depends on your approach. The relations between people, either you're in a bad environment, competitive, where you're always at the edge and you're under pressure, or you're in a friendly environment where the people are supporting you and you feel great and you feel actually expansion there. At this point, I'd like to ask, you said that the condition to come, I'd be really happy if I myself as an HR executive and all the workers in the organization and my managers, if we would all come, like you mentioned here, if we'd all come to work, like to the yard, the playground. What's the difference? There's no difference between work and the playground. Today, I'm sure that the workers, today, the alarm goes off, they turn the alarm off again and again and again. It's just the opposite picture of the child that you wake him up in the morning and he gets up with huge eyes and he wants to swallow the world. And in the evening, you have to persuade him to go to sleep. He doesn't want to go to sleep. He has stuff. He's enjoying life. Most older people that I know, and it doesn't matter if they're high level or clerks, the clock can burn, they don't care, and at night they want to sleep. It's the exact opposite. The picture that you painted, I identify with it, and it's really magical, but I want to focus on one point. I want you to open this a little bit more. You said that the key to going from the mature and suffering adult to the child in the playground, now I understood where you want to take my organization. You defined a very serious goal. You want to put us through a process that would bring us to an approach, a sensation, in a person's perception, how he grasps things. Either for him, it's a place of suffering, torture, or a place of pleasure. It all depends on the relations between people at the workplace. And that's it. Why? Because it doesn't depend on the machines. It doesn't depend on the weather. It's not dependent on anything around, only on people. The connection between them. Either I'm in prison, or I'm in a hostel or something, on vacation. We came to like a village, a vacation village. What's the difference? If it's a prison, an isolated place, or if it's a vacation place? The connection between people. What do you mean? So either there are these people obligating those people and they're stressed, or we're all together on vacation, good relations, friendship. Work can be a prize, a present, a gift. I come, I participate with others, just like with kids that I play with. Look how they run, look what they do. Look what a waste of calories. How much energy do they exert? I hardly move all day. I hardly move. I get fat. Everything I eat goes to fat instead of moving like them. Why? Because I don't feel any benefit from being related to others, in relations with others. Why shouldn't we make of the business like a playground, like a football stadium, like a tennis stadium? That we're in this nice interaction with one another. I do some work, I don't even want to see who I'm handing it over to, and I get things, I did what I did, and leave me alone. I'm cut off from everyone. Is that the shape we want to be in? It's against nature. And look what's happening in the world as a result. Why are we going bankrupt? Because the lack of correct connection. If the world is integral and we don't match it, then we are losing, even to the extent that there's nothing we can do. It's all from the lack of connection between people, and that's what we are teaching here. From the entire world, this united Europe, and all the connections between companies and inside the companies and inside families. It all doesn't depend on a person, but the connections between people. The ruined connections, corrupt connections. There's his ego, unfounded hatred, fanaticism is all between people. So we don't need to correct the person himself. That's what's special, and that's what needs to be highlighted in our approach. We're not coming to a person and saying you're bad. You have to correct yourself. No, God forbid, you're good. You're perfect. You're 100%. We love you. We respect you. Except for one thing. You don't have to change anything except for one thing. Let's change the relations between us. You see how you have a psychological approach here that's brand new, very special, very unique. Just the relations between people. You were born with all these attributes, stay with them. What you received in your education, you're 30, 40, 50 years old, stay with that. Your perspective of life in the world, it all remains. We're only working with how between us to connect. Not to eat each other up, not even in our thoughts and in desires, because that is what making us feel bad. That's what all the problems are from cancer, heart diseases, diabetes. All the results are coming from me being under pressure from the thoughts, the negative thoughts of the environment, and I myself am also like that towards them. My body is always in resistance, conflict, and fear from getting hurt from others. If we enhance the relation between us, then I will feel like I'm in my mother's hands, like I was as a baby. Remember? What's bad with that? What's bad about that? That's it. And my mother loved me the way I am? Yes. For her, I was the most beautiful, the smartest, the best. That's how we need to accept each other. And it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, I will accept you like my loved baby. And you, me. And nobody has to change themselves. We don't need anything. We don't need to rape people. That's called making out of him an integral unit. And in that way, he feels everyone, because he's opening himself to everyone. He doesn't feel that he's... The child in the family feels like the head of the family. The whole house is his. He runs, he demands. And everyone smiles and loves him. And that's how everyone should be towards everyone. And from this nice relation to others, I find myself how I need to look after them, how they look after me. And then we get to a different balance, not a balance that if I give you a punch, you punch me back, and then we'll keep our distance and we're always calculating. Just the opposite. Love will determine between us, the relations between us, how close we are to one another, how we connect to one another. From the point of love, not hatred, love for one another, we begin to build connections. And in accordance with that, we're in a workplace as one body. That for him, everything that we do, all the plans, everything we're performing, how much we're earning, it's all ours. It's a factory. It's something that's close to everyone. You actually just described a situation that if we'd only know to connect properly between us, all crimes will be covered by love over all the bad in each of us. We're not dealing with that. We are connecting despite my knowing. I'm a person, I know I can scan you and I don't care. I treat you with love. That's it. Just like living in a family. I live with another person that I know him 10, 20, 30, 40 years. My wife and I were over 40 years. So we don't know each other. How is that possible? So it's not important. There's no place to hate, there's no place to be in conflict. People understand that here we need to have love, a connection, mutuality, above all the lackings and problems that everyone has. That we know we won't manage to change each other, we're going to stay the way we were, that's for sure. And I also see with my child, teach a person in his way, a child in his way. You can't change anyone, and you can't change yourself. I can only change the relation between people. If that is the case, then I don't have any demands from anyone. That's what comes out. That's interesting. I don't demand from a child, you need to change like this and like this. He can say to me, what do you want from me? This is me. This is how you made me. This is how society made me. Who am I? What do you want from me? And he's completely justified. He has DNA in him. He got things from his grandparents, Rishimot, from the previous generations. I have no complaints over any attribute of him, any approach he has to life. I just have to teach him how it is properly nice to treat others, despite that others are like him, have only negative attributes. I'm waiting for only one thing for him, that above the negative attributes, he will have a good relation to everyone. He will relate well to everyone, like he does to me. So each of us is a sort of bad box that develops from within it to others good relations. That's it. How can I do it? By the pressure of society on me. We're all obligating me how to be good to them. This is the essence of arvut hadadit, mutual responsibility that we need to develop. There's no ability to exist in our world unless it's like this, because the badness is eternal. We can only build the umbrella of peace above it. That's it. And that is what I'm doing. So if they say to us, you're coming to change a person, no. I need to say in advance, we're not changing the person. We're changing our relation. We're teaching a person how to build correct relations between people so they will enjoy it and their ego will enjoy it. Because everyone actually, theoretically, would like to be in such a good society, but they don't know how to go about it. Because then you don't need police, prisons, all kinds of tickets from police. You're in a good world. And you remain like you were. You were an egoist, you're still an egoist. But you will be educated and get into the habit of treating others well. And you'll also feel that from other people. I want to sharpen in a rational way, a certain point. Of course, there's an existing understanding among the HR executives like myself and among managers that know that relations between people is a very significant aspect in an organization. But here you're describing a situation that it's like the only thing. It is the only thing that can prepare the company or a factory or family or for the correct advancement. It's a foundation, a platform for the correct advancement. Without that platform, there can be no advancement. So if parts of the world, parts of humanity won't start getting a form like this, they're lost. They'll need to get this format through the recognition of evil. What does that mean? That the relations between them have reached not everyone with everyone. Each person remains an egoist, but the relations between everyone gets to wars, problems. That a person hates the enemies of his home. After this recognition of evil, this huge recognition of evil and the relations between us, wars and stuff where people eat each other, then they will understand in all the bad that was being revealed that they must build above this hatred of theirs connections of love, connections of connecting, of unity. So we'll either do it through education, with our small bad that we have. They're really eating people in the wars right now. Or it will come from sufferings. But when we teach them, we're actually discovering in them all these situations to the extent that everyone's bad. In the most natural way, we reflect it to everyone, and only the fear from damage is stopping us from bursting out with all this badness And the integral education comes to not just deal with every person internally, but also to make good connections between us. So it turns out that the form of humanity is that the minus is the bad parts of us and the good connections is the plus. And then we are in suiting the levels of nature, inanimate, vegetative, animate, human, and then they're connected with others and we have a complete system. But the plus, that we relate to each other and this and this and this, in physics we understand that there can't just be pluses. They also reject one another, but I and my plus, I'm connecting with your minus because I want to fill you. And you and your plus call me to fill my minus. And this is how the system becomes integral. And each person is built like that. That especially through all these connections, the extent that people receive from others and give to others, this is how we reach full harmony. So the integral education of ours directs us to this structure. And to us it is clear the whole process that we're going through in the human development. We have no choice but to adjust ourselves to suit this development. I'd like to hear you expand. You talked about war. About a parallel notion between what we experience every day as HR managers. We really know these things you're talking about every day because they really get us stuck. We feel inside our organizations between employees there's like wars between the employees. And you made a correlation between this and the whole world of conflicts and wars. And I had a feeling in your explanation that you see some kind of correlation between the interactions that we each identify in our own organization, negative interactions, between negative interactions in the world in general. And then what I found, let's look forward a bit. It's obviously the negative interactions can bring us to a general catastrophe. In my organization, there's not a feeling yet that if we're being threatened by some big war that will destroy the whole planet, there's nothing there's not in front of me. We're used to it already. We're used to there being a war, a hidden war between all the departments and floors. We don't know anything else. I'm not managing to say what I want you to sharpen. I understood the legend that if relations aren't good between people and between countries, the world is heading towards a catastrophe because it has to discover the bad to become corrected. This I understand when I look at a big perspective of the world. But as my organization, will it also go through this scenario? Every organization is also on this path. Every family, every connection between people, either in a big way or a small way, they have to go through the same process. The same process. The revelation of evil has to be at every level. In other words, so you anticipate that in the few years, the relations between organizations, between people inside organizations, if we don't deal with it, will they improve or get worse? And if they get worse, why will they get worse? How will they get worse? based on your approach? How do we see the development of organizations in the coming years? Say a company, a factory, it doesn't matter what. 1 second, I want to add one more detail on a very precise scale on about human relations. If we say one company and you're providing the cure, the preventive cure, I want to understand if I don't start a process for improving relations based on the integral approach, and things keep going the way they've been up till now, based on your analysis of how people need to develop in organizations and relations between people, where do you see my organization in another year, 2 or 3? Relations between people will reach a state where they won't see one another. The workers, yes, the workers, they won't see one another. Each one will only deal with their work, what comes across their table, and not who comes and who influences and receives and who gives. With his narrow, limited ego, he will not be able to see other people around him. He'll want to be more closed, to talk less, to participate less, to relate less to others, to each person around him, bigger and smaller and equal to him. This is why the connections between all people in a business have distance and lack of understanding between them. It will influence the production. It will influence R&D. Today you can't really develop something, and it's very difficult to work together collectively in a group if they don't have the understanding and each person is acting and posing and trying to trick each other, trying to trip each other. So we have no choice but to raise them to the better connection. There's no doubt that the number of divorce, the distance between family members will increase, and that will influence each and every person, their approach to life, their mood, their health. We will feel this also as a result of all kinds of pressures at work, blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, etc. We will not be able to handle the human relation, to be in mutuality and to support one another, each employee, also from the side of his environment. I think that relations between partners, let's say we have a company and there's partners, there's investors and trustees and distributors and receiving and giving and influencing, etc. The relations will be much more formal and extremely dry, let's say. There will be no ability to speak between humans, to ask, to postpone something, or everything will be much more closer to like how we behave in court. Very defined relations. If a person will be able to profit off somebody else's blood, he'll use it without thinking twice. We see that, like now Europe is showing us There's fascism, there's terror, there's each one wants to get away from the other. This breakage is continuing, and it will also reach the breakage of all the connections between countries. They're trying to trick each other. They're stopping diplomatic relations. We see that all the industry and commerce and economy and banks, it's all falling in a drastic way, not like now that it's from year to year. It'll be much worse. So I envision a world that is a destroyed world. How it won't end in war, I don't see. It's most natural for it to descend into war, because if there's distance, each one starts dealing with power plays, partisanship, fascist regimes come up. Between countries, it'll bring war for sure. And between the banking systems, industries, commerce, it'll bring collapse. Now, if in previous years, previous generations, my country fought another country, then each country had commerce, industry, had things internal that weren't connected to the external. What will happen now when they really get into war? What will happen now if these connections will be cancelled? How will they be able to exist? Industries, food. I can't even describe to myself. We don't understand how dependent we are on one another, especially at a time of war. You cut this off and cut that off from countries in a very sudden, abrupt manner. So I believe that if we don't discover the need for the good connection at the level of the individual, family, workplace, between all the companies, industry, banks, countries, and all of humanity, if we don't discover the necessity for this connection, which is the key to our sustainability, I'm not even talking about development, but our very existence. The world will be, how can we see a future? I don't know. That's why we see people don't want to have kids, they don't want to have families, they don't want to have obligations. Debts they can have, what do they care? I'm not even sure that tomorrow I'll pay them off. Who's going to pay it? You see, the banks are also, they've given up. Debts to countries and debts to... It's over the head. What are you going to do? You're going to put a few more million people into prison. What are you going to do? It's going to come to a point where it will collapse all of a sudden, and that's it. Everyone owes other people, I don't know how much. It's just like what's happening in the business arena. You see here, we need to understand that it's a general problem, and only in mutuality can we somehow heal it. Nitsa, what other questions would you like to raise in the framework of the integral approach? First of all, when you describe the situation that you described, I really identify with it powerfully, because some of the difficulties you're explaining, they're already here. We're seeing it. I spoke about it 10 years ago, and now finally they're seeing it. Now there's an ability to approach people. And my question is, as someone who deals with HR and people and human assets, when I look at the generation, it's called the Y generation, the young generation between 35 and downwards, which is a very significant workforce for companies. It really answers the description you provided. Everyone behind their screen, the lack of connection, their even lack of interest in one another. Sometimes the situation, before there used to be jealousy. There's like a disconnection. It's very far away from the playground you explained. It looks like everyone's doing a favor, that they get up in the morning even. They make a face, do what they have to do. And the owner also has to, he has no choice, he has to come. That's the workforce. So how do I take this material, this human material that you're describing? It looks like it's the exact perfect opposite of what you described that you have to start to work with. My question at the moment is, how do you do the change? How do I even think of the beginning? How do we begin with this human material that we need to work with? I think that precisely in such a generation, at this time, in this situation, we can succeed because we have the recognition of evil. We understand that we are going to nowhere. There's no family, there's no good relations. I forget my parents. Let them get old. I throw them something here and there. I don't want to think about them so much. I also know that I can't fall on my kids' hands, that I'll have to look out for myself until I die. I know that society also won't help me. Precisely in such a generation where everything's collapsing, and not a simple collapse to lack of food, danger of hunger, danger of war, to something that's very, very big suffering, even more than death. Precisely in that, we can show a person, let us simply, in a pleasant manner, in games, at your workplace, let us enjoy ourselves. Let's do a few exercises. Let's listen. Let's talk in a simple manner, an hour a day, instead of working. At the workplace and instead of work. And that's what we'll do. Half an hour, let's say, discussion. And half an hour of like an exercise, a game. On the one hand, it has to be agreed upon with the management, of course, and also the workers. That we actually want to deal with their inner situation, not that we're changing their character, their mood, their health, perspective of life, that it'll be more raised up. We want to make them happier. We want to provide them with confidence, warmth, feeling of support. I would even say there's something of a miracle here. Not a special force, but like a special patent. How to accept life in a pleasant way, how to succeed more at life. That's it. That's what we're giving them. I don't think it's a difficult thing. Because from the first time, we can bring them discussions and activities that they enjoy. We are awakening in the person, if not a child, then at least a young youngster, teen. We're raising him slightly above his rat race life. And we're giving him like a bit of a release from everything going on. And therefore we see that it's attractive. People agree to it. And apart from that, they suddenly begin to feel that they're changing. The way they relate to things, you can look at life differently because the integral approach is not at the same level as the regular egoistic approach. It starts to change inside a person, awakens in the person a new perspective. And therefore, he suddenly begins to feel himself that the world can be new, life can be new, everything can be new. Everything can be easier, simpler. I don't have to be stuck in the ground with all my problems. I can dress, I can wear pink glasses. I can see everything in a new way, in a pleasant way. He begins to feel, even though he doesn't understand from where, but he feels there's like this heaviness is gone, this darkness that was on top of everyone, where everyone's criticizing everyone. Suddenly, everything starts to be lighter. How can we put it? This pink fog, you can say, that's between us. And it's attractive. He starts to feel that he has less stress, pressures, pains, more of a mood. He's refreshed on the inside. And that's at the beginning. And afterwards, we'll start to see very serious results in work, in his production, the way, good relations, and the bottom line is in profits. Okay, let's summarize. I want to get out of this convention with a few principles that I can present to, I want to convince my manager. So let's try to make a few principles that will help me convince my manager about this approach. All problems today are from a lack of connection between people, between organizations and countries. That nature is presenting itself as integral, and we are the opposite. To bring ourselves to success, we can only do this by matching ourselves to the system that's being revealed in society, that we're all dependent on one another. To build this good dependence on one another can only be done with the integral education. This is how a person gets into good contact with others and gets rid of his problems. A new spirit comes upon him between the people in the company or wherever he is, and they all begin to participate more in everything going on, everything the company is dealing with. And we need, at the end of the day, to see the results from the change of relation between people, between workers, between managers, and the bottom line, the profit and loss of the company. Thank you very, very much, Rav Leitman. Thank you, Nitsa. Thank you. Thank you, viewers, for being with us. Until next time, we'll think how to improve the relations between us. All the best, and goodbye.